Hello, welcome to the dungeon. I am your dungeon boss, Rainbird, down at the final level. Welcome to Ramble Runes night, our usual Thursday night affair, where I talk about my D&D game, and will eventually, when I catch up with the current date, talk about setting up encounters and bosses and backstories and building stats. But I wanna gather all this up and get it out of the way first as like a pretext sort of thing. Also just a good excuse to practice my reading on screen and stuff. So tonight we're pretty much at the start of my current campaign. I told you guys a little bit about Lexi and Perry, our barbarian and our bard for the current game. And tonight I will introduce the third player character. This was originally the player of Leon the Paladin. If any of my players do pop in to the stream or have a look at the VOD, this is your spoiler warning. The player does want to keep a secret about their character. I don't think it'll come up in the old text log that I'm going to be going through, but just in case it does come up, spoiler warning. So at the start of my campaign, we have Lexi and we have Perry, just sort of sitting in the garden of Jacinta and Raleigh's floating cottage lost in time and space, little TARDIS cottage. The third player in the group, they wanted to start a new character. They didn't want to continue the old one. They also added that character as an NPC in their own game, so they were kind of off busy doing something. I did give them the option of bringing it back, but they decided what they wanted to do, and that is cool and groovy. So I'm not gonna go through their stats or anything in this. Just before we get started, I did finish Audrey, our little radio mimic. It now has a little musical tune thing that comes out of it whenever audio plays through one of the sources. I'll just give the intro a quick play for a sec so you can see it. And the little audio notes that come up. So that'll come up whenever there is an audio source, which I think is a nice little touch that cleans Audrey up a little bit. And I got all the numbers working for the TTSQ now. So the TTSQ worked perfectly in the background, but the number being displayed on the front of Audrey there was not coming out correctly. I figured out exactly what it was. It was one typo. I was missing a percentage. So in an if statement I had, it was checking against what I had in the if statement. But because it didn't have the percentage, what was in the if statement was different to the actual number it was looking for. So, it went a little bit wrong. But yeah, I figured that out after stream. So we're all good and Gucci there. Okay, so the third player, who is playing a new character instead of bringing back their old character, they also had a kid recently. They have the newborn debuff, as we've been calling it. So they weren't able to join the table and play their character with the other two, at least not yet. So what I did is, through Facebook Messenger, because we're all boomers, we're older millennials. Older millennials. Through Facebook Messenger, I ran essentially a game just for his character to to sort of intro it for him, and then he would be basically in the world for the other two characters to find when he was able to play. We went through his story, and the other two players kind of caught up to where he was, but due to time circumstances, then we couldn't play the following game. So the text adventure he was on was extended a little bit to give the other two players a chance to play more with their characters and progress. Because I think I mentioned before, we round robin our turns as DM, and both the other two that do a lot of the DMing needed a break. So that was, I wanted to DM. I wanted to run a game. Yeah. I wanted a turn. So we'll get some background music from Game Chops, my current go-to. Maybe I might figure out royalty-free music on Spotify or something like that at a later date. We do bits at a time. Let's try those who come after. That has an interesting picture. This is from Expedition 33, looks like. I have not played that yet. I very much want to. It looks like a really fun RPG. It is a piano collection. Ooh, I do like a bit of a piano. Let's okay. So this is Game Chops for those who come after. Just to say the credits. And we have about an hour there, so look at something new to listen in about an hour. It's also a good way to keep track of time. Let's put something visual on the screen. Let me move over to my game space and have a little seat over here. This is actually very fitting music for this current scene. So we have Lexi and Perry staring off into time-space on this sort of TARDIS cottage on this map. Okay, well, I bring up the text. See what that looks like. Oh, it's not very nice to look at. But I do need to be able to read it on one of my monitors, and I do want to be able to see OBS in case anything comes in. Okay, I'll read it from the doc. So this is essentially a chat log game between me and this player. It is quite long, and I will be stopping every now and then to go into slightly more detail about context and such. So this is the world this is set in is Taliv, which is one of the other players' worlds. In Discord, that's Chatsark. He recently shared a really nice stat for Komodo dragons as a beast or a wild shape for 5e. That is available on the Discord if you want to go have a look. And I guess I'll get into it. So this is Rivers. Rivers, the character. He works for a sort of mafia type group. They all dress in suits. And he has been sent on an assassination mission, essentially. Which I guess I cover in the start of this, so I didn't really need to say it, but, you know. River has been right off the bat. Thank you, dyslexia and tongue twisters. River has been dispatched with direct orders from the Dawn, the leader of the Syndicate, in Castle Ridge. The leader of the Okay, deep breath. We can read words. We've been doing it since we were 6, 7. When do you learn to read? Okay. River has been dispatched with direct orders from the Dawn. The leader of the syndicate in Castle Ridge hasn't been paying his dues to the Dawn. River is traveling with Marco. Marco Rumblecank, a gnome with a reasonable skill in yapping. Most of the Mafia guys you know are relatively young, but Marco is balding, dyeing his hair, and has grown a ridiculous mustache. Seems he's trying to act younger than he is. Who cares? What River finds both irritating and amusing about the guy is his attempt to act like a hard man despite being 3 foot tall, and his penchant for acting like he has a degree in psychology, despite probably only reading a pamphlet on the topic. He'll make big assumptions and guesses with no evidence to explain people's behavior. It's especially amusing when he tries to diagnose River, thinking he knows exactly how River thinks and being way off. The mission: Marco has a meeting with the syndicate leader Antonio. One chance to pay up, or Marco gives River the signal to put an arrow through the back of his skull. Marco has a few more details on the mission and the politics behind it. You got a lift with a merchant's caravan. Got a few hours to kill if you want to ask him anything. He offers River a smoke. Gotta keep on the good side, kid. Positive reinforcement. Your folks probably starved you of it, but Marco will take care of you, and you'll take care of him, capiche? I'm gonna give that a reread and see if I can do a voice for him. Gotta keep you on the good side, kid. Positive reinforcements. Your folks probably starved you of it, but Marco will take care of you, and you gotta take care of him, capiche? Nah, I'm not happy with that, but we're not recording voice lines here, so it'll do. Hey, and this is River. River will take the smoke, but put it behind his ear instead. He has no interest, but knows being polite and accepting a gift is a thing you're supposed to do. Why do you like it like that, Go? You talk a lot like do the laughing thing with a big smile often, but also with your eyes. Is it not just your mouth that's supposed to do the smile? This may be the first time River has actually spoken to him, conversationally, other than things he needs to learn about a mission. River's a little surprised he bothered to even ask. It's not like him. Maybe he just found it too odd or confusing, or maybe he just tried to look at him. It would be much easier if Marco was dead. No expression, much less confusing. River's kind of an odd dude. Yeah, you'll find out later when, like, the character actually gets into the game, I guess. Can't pull one over on you, oh, did I miss the line? I did. Haha, kid, you're a peach. You're a peach and a half. Maybe you didn't get enough calcium as a rugrat. When people smile with their eyes, it means they're being genuine, 100%. Some folks do or don't smile with their eyes, but if you know they're the type that do, you got their tell, buddy. Just like poker. You like poker, River? Question mark? You like poker, River? You like poker, River? You'd be good at it. You don't have many tells. Except for Marco here. I can read you like a book. He calls Marco Co. That's the thing the player decided. Just for you, the audience. Can't pull one over on you, Co. River smiles, attempting to use his eyes a little. River doesn't really care to do anything. Nothing is fun to him, so he would ask the details. Where to set up, and once he was ready, he would simply sit and wait, preferably without Marco. You alright, kid? You're squinting. You got something in your eyes? I got a hanky if you need one. You been to Castle Ridge before, kid? Anything you need to know, Marco knows it all. You're lucky to be with me, kid. You got an expert with ya. Smart and the smoothest talker on the continent. Then the job's done. I'll be your wingman. We'll have a night out on the town. Maybe pick up a couple of gnome girls. Handsome fella like you, he probably doesn't have any issues with that. And he gives a wink. No, it's fine. I'll be fine. Just tell me where to set up and where the exit is. Maybe something about the target if we have time. Maybe I'll be your wingman. Aw, they're bonding. Sure thing, kid. The mark is Antonio, orcish guy. Him and his boys wear white suits. They gotta be a little bit more careful about being legitimate businessmen. The local guards there are something else. Can't be bought or bribed or nothing. Their chief is a goddamn gnoll. And he's got no beans about hitting the streets and cracking skulls. And they can't keep business underground either. There's a sewer system that'd be perfect for moving merch, but the damn place is filled with giant crocs up the wazoo. I'm meeting Antonio at a cafe by the docks. Nice place, makes a decent coffee. Got a nice spot for you all set up. Either he pays up, or I'll give you the signal. And you do what you do best. And scarper out the back before anyone knows you were there. I ask for a history roll. And then... he gave me a 8 on a history roll. That's fine. He doesn't know... that's fine. What he does know is that Turin had mentioned a town with a gnoll cop. This is from a previous game. A gnoll cop. And the crocs he may possibly have caused in a town. You were pretty sure they were different places, but you don't remember the names or care to think further about it. So in previous this player's Worlds campaign, this player played a character called Torin. There was one town where my character set up a gnoll as a new town guard. And there was another town where his character created a moat around his house and filled it with crocodiles, which caused some issues for the town. In many years later, there was a sort of migration from the gnoll cop town to crocodile moat town. So they are now the same place. So that's two different events in the history of the previous game. Unless there's any questions for Marco, River can get some rest. Marco says less if he's sleeping. He talks in his sleep, but at least River doesn't have to reply. As you approach Castle Ridge, you can perform a perception if you want. So you got a nat 20 plus 5. Very nice. It's a little like a cross between Derry and Cove. So these are two cities in our home country, Ireland. Derry has basically a fort in the center with big high walls. Cove is built on a big hill with some really big, massive churches that sort of overlook the water. So it looks like the houses are nearly stacked on top of each other from a distance. There's fortifications, huge walls with ballista towers above, looking over a quaint and colourful town with docks that reach out to the sea. It would be picturesque if River cared. The tiered nature of the city looks pretty good for positions to fire downhill, plenty of alleys to disappear down. You spot a pair of guards on what's probably a regular patrol. They're really well geared, at the least. Should be easy to avoid from where you are. Not that you're breaking any laws right now, but best to go unnoticed. As you and Marco move through the streets, with your nat 20, you notice a girl passing the opposite direction. River notices something off easily. The expression is like a mask. What he sees in a mirror compared to looking at others. A fake smile, or fake more. The book she's holding to her chest passes through her jacket. like clipping through a model in a video game. She's trying to hide a limp and a droplet from her cheek. It's not raining. She's not doing that crying thing. Extra on the nat 20, you spot an owl tailing the girl. Out during the day? Strange at least. As you look at the owl beyond it, you wouldn't have noticed otherwise a hawk tailing the owl. Hawks don't hunt owls. That's a couple of strange things. So he spotted a girl with a couple of odd things about her. A book glitching through her, essentially. Up behind her, an owl seems to be tailing her, and there seems to be a hawk tailing the owl. That was all information he got on a nat 20. River would begin to wander and follow a bit, without saying anything to Marco. Something strange might lead to something interesting. And then he rolled a 17 investigation and a 7 arcana. That's from the investigation. The DC, I believe, was 11 for this character, so he can spot that it's a disguise self spell. That's a disguise self, you think. You're vaguely aware of it. On your investigation, the spell's effect on your perception is broken. You see a young Null girl, school uniform, fur under her eyes marked by tears, a bit of blood at the corner of her mouth, might be hers. She's taken a hard hit to the leg and arm, might be broken, could do a medicine if River would. Orange markings and hair tips. You only know a little about Nulls, but orange markings is something you personally have never heard of. She's hobbling a bit. She seems to have a destination in mind. She hasn't noticed you. Marco has noticed you walking off. He had been talking at you the whole time. Hey. His reply, Marco's boring. This seems like it might pass the time better. I'll follow, but watch the birds and look out for anyone else suspicious following. The hawk has moved down closer. You could tell it's staying in the owl's blind spot. You're not sure if either bird has noticed you. The girl seemed to yet. The girl hasn't seemed to notice you yet. She seems to be going uphill. The area up ahead seems to have an almost tunnel. There's rows of bridges connecting the paths above on a fortification wall. There's a few folks passing up and down the street. She seems to be struggling more and more as the road gets steeper. She seems to be putting everything she can into maintaining her disguise. Not the spell, but her movements and actions to remain unnoticed. Yeah, so she's using disguise self, but obviously if she's blatantly limping, the disguise self-disguise would also be blatantly limping, so she seems to be hiding that. How far back is River following, and is he trying not to be seen, or just walking that way being non-suspicious? Girl seemed not to notice you yet, so I corrected my earlier sentence. I am dyslexic, I'm allowed to do that, leave me alone. Just blending in, walking in that direction, hood up. If the hawk is just following and not attacking, then I might just get in the way. Maybe walk a little faster so I'm behind the girl, blocking her from anyone behind's view, and whisper, don't look back, but an owl and a hawk are following you. I'll see what the birds do. Again, just happening to be walking that way. If I can, I would try to use a passerby to stealth move us down an alley or something. If the girl is okay with it, find a place to hide till the hawk has moved on. That's considerate, isn't it? Getting the girl's consent there. Top marks player. Good job, River. Hi. The girl lets out a small eep as you talk to her. She gives a slight nod and steps into the alley with you. She got a 14 stealth and 17 performance to look natural and nonchalant. Her disguise self is still up You've just seen through it, FYI. You can roll and stealth and perform if you'd like. Once shrouded in the darkness of the alley, the girl stares up at the hawk. Hey, mister, can you see if the hawk looks like it's looking around like a normal hawk? She steps back and closes her eyes for a moment, speaking, but not to you, it seems. Gwandara, don't react. Vaudeville is above you. Can you lead her away? Pick a random person going the direction I was and follow them. I don't know. Towards the main street, I guess. Yes, that'd do. No, I don't know if he is. Don't be sassy, geez. Fine, I'll ask first. She opens her eyes and looks directly to you. Excuse me, sir. Might I inquire your name? Just for context there, the owl is this character's familiar, and the hawk is following the owl, and someone would assume that they know who the disguised self person is, and that they have a familiar, and that they would be like backing them up and keeping an eye on things. Yeah. Now, my player knows exactly who this character is because it is the younger version of one of my characters from a different game. And this is essentially the past, so this is the younger version of them. Now that you're close up, you can see she's actually a bit taller than you thought. You're not super familiar with gnolls, but you know they grow fast, and any that you've seen or heard of are in the 7 to 8 foot range. This girl is like 5'5"-ish. She has a shoulder book bag that is really weighed down. Her eyes are kind of a dark color, but there's a hue at the edge. You can roll a history or arcana if you like. Actually, history at advantage. I'd say he's seen this before. The book in her hand is definitely a magic tome looking, and she has a death grip on that thing. So he rolls a 24 for the stealth, very good. 18 performance, amazing. You can call me Ken. I would recommend you don't give your real name a lot of power in a name. Best not give it lightly. Can I ask why you are being followed? And I'll nod at the book. And he also gave a 7 to the history check and a 7 to the arcana check. So not doing the best on the int rolls. I think it's all flat rolls for him on his int stats. Masterfully broken sightlines with the girl and slipped into the alley. If anyone had seen it, it would seem natural. She looks into your eyes, almost squinting for a moment. That'll be good enough to convince Gwandara. She closes her eyes for a moment. The owl, without missing a beat, follows someone else down an opposite alleyway. The hawk flaps. It seems to look around, but it might just be repositioning itself to stay in the owl's blind spot. That won't throw her off for long. Have you been to the Feywilds, Mr. Ken? I think I'm in a lot of trouble. Her grip on the tome tightens. You can see the strain on her fingers. I only borrowed it. It'd be back in place already if they didn't corner me. She makes a sharp look up and down the alley, recalculating her route. Primrose Alley and back to Bridge Street from the side, I guess. She starts to limp down the alley. She gives you a look. You can insight it for extra details. Not a hue in her eyes, a ring around her iris. This is from his arcane check. With a faint purple glow. You knew a member of your gang that was Fey-touched. Something usually inherited. Gives you a couple of natural spells, so you recall him saying. His misty step just gave you a clearer shot at the back of his head. I guess that's why he's a former comrade. His eyes are almost unnaturally bright green, and she would probably see the suit under the cloak. Black boots, but light for sneaking, and a big suitcase with straps. Can't say I have. Strange place as far as I know, although strange at least is interesting. I can't stand the boredom of some of these places. Looks at the book again. Don't apologize for taking what you want. There isn't a spell in there to get a gnome to stop talking, is there? Annoying creatures. I wouldn't recommend befriending one. He got a 23 on his insight I asked for. Either way, whatever you're up to seems like a much more interesting way to pass the time. Let's get you safe and patched up first, though. You're less use like this. If the hawk comes back, will I shoot it down? I was just wondering because the power of names is more of a thing to worry about with Fae and devils, I guess. But I haven't met a real devil. Sometimes if Gwandara falls asleep first and I'm drifting off, I can see her dreams of the Fae weave. I think she prefers being an owl, though. Being an incorporeal consciousness seems lame. Oh, she looks down at the book. She looks down at the book, silence, and maybe hold person would do. Okay. She looks down at the book. Silence, and maybe hold person would do it, but I can't cast those. Yeah, so that's just Gwandara, the owl, is her familiar. And for those who know, familiars can be infernal, fae, or celestial, I believe. So in this case, Gwandara is a fae. And also, she had asked him, after he mentioned not giving names, if he'd ever been to the Feywilds. So that's just why all of that little bit of dialogue happened. That's just the context for it. You came to the wrong town if you want to avoid gnomes, buddy. She chuckled and snorts and blushes slightly after the snort. They do sure like to talk, though. I'm sorry, I don't usually talk so much. It takes my mind off my arm. Damn, good insight. People sure do move their faces a lot. Let's see. It wasn't happy, sad, angry, not intent to kill, not surprised, but something close. What was it? Recognition, maybe. But I haven't met this kid before. She's taken a mental note about something familiar in River's face or expression. That's as much as he can get without mind reading. With the gnat, I'll give you, on the first look, she gave her eyebrows sort of furrowed at the suit, but it wasn't annoyed. Why do people do so much moving their faces? What a waste of energy. That is on his insight, so it's kind of his character's perspective there. It can be kind of tough in school when you're 3 foot taller than most of your classmates. And apparently I haven't even had my growth spurt yet. Oh, are you a gangster, by the way? Your suit's the wrong color, unless you're from out of town. I guess I've never seen any around before. Oh, I wouldn't if I were you. Vaudeville is a familiar too, so he can be summoned back, but the spell takes an hour. She'd probably kill you for the inconvenience. That's on the question of will I shoot the owl? Or will I shoot the hawk? He asked if he'd shoot the hawk. She has eyes like yours. I don't mean green. Once at a parent-teacher meeting, I had to grab her hand because she started to cast the somatic components to a spell that would have caused black tentacles to pull my teacher into the abyss. The woman gave me an A+ in creative writing and a B in arcane mathematics, and the only reason I got a B was because I'm doing the exam for a year ahead. The teacher was singing my praises, but she was bored. I mean, was bored, but it would have caused a lot of inconvenience. At the end of the alley, she looks around cautiously before taking a right. And that is enter from the actual message. We don't need that. Oh, you can call me Claw, by the way. Everyone here knows my name anyway. There's only 5 gnolls who live in the town, and I'm one of them. Aye? Well, sometimes Grandma visits, but that causes its own problems. She won't stop adding spikes to her wheelchair. I just love adding gnolls to my game, man. They're the best D&D race, by far. They might not be an official D&D race, but they are in my world, and they should be. Gnolls are best. And this is back to the player again. I've never seen a devil. I mean, the horns and tail kind. I have been called a devil many times, but I don't mind. It's the way I dance. Maybe we could hex his charisma. That might stop him being so chatty. Honestly, this is the most I've talked all week. Work's been getting boring, so I'm looking for something interesting. I wouldn't worry about size. All men die the same. You'll learn that when you get older. I don't know if gangster is the right word for me. I'm definitely not with those white suits. Inconvenience to who? Because if it's not to you, it doesn't matter. Also, Grandma sounds like a boss. Definitely my kind of nan. So, do you need to get that book back, or you gonna, like, keep it? If you're out on the lam, you can hang with me for the day. I mean, I gotta do a job real quick later, but shouldn't take long. You can tag along if you like. I can't picture you dancing, Mr. Ken. You're pretty stiff. You have a build more like a boxer than a dancer, I think. Oh, I think I can manage Hex, but I've been working on Bless. It's hard to explain, but they kind of take up the same place in my mind. I want to be an adventurer maybe someday. Help fight the oppression of my people in the southeast. Way over the sea. That kind of work. What kind of work do you do? Do you mind if I guess? You either kill people or something super the opposite to keep you from getting in trouble. Well-dressed ice cream man? Not quite a gangster, huh? Darn. I was kind of relieved the white suits are Not quite a gangster, huh? Darn. I was kind of relieved. The white suits are all really nice to me. We eat at Mr. Antonio's Ortalian restaurant quite often. I'm not sure if it's to stay on my father's good side or because they're scared of her. I like spaghetti. It's a little messy when you have a snout, though. That's not true at all, Mr. Ken. Men die lots of different ways. It'd be awful hard to cut a giant's throat, and you can't kidney punch a gnome. Their organs are too small. Size makes a big difference. Inconvenience to Mom. It was more of a warning. I'm in trouble, but I'm not in danger. If you shot down Vaudeville, you might be, though. I gotta get the book back before she realizes, and then maybe I can patch myself up and smooth things over. The expression is nervousness, you're pretty sure? Not quite begging for your life nervousness, you've seen that plenty. As she makes a left and slips into the long dark tunnel you saw earlier, she seems to contemplate your offer. I guess people can surprise you. They aren't much different, if I'm to be honest. It's all fancy footwork. Bless? Is that like Backwards Bane? I heard of that one. I haven't tried fighting oppression before. That sounds less boring than... Oh, right. I guess I'm a insurance man. I make sure people pay their life insurance. Can't be too careful these days. Sounds like a nice place. Those white suits sound like they know how to live. Probably a table just for them, out on a balcony, or by a big window perhaps. Lots of sun and a good view maybe. That's his assassin thinking coming through the balcony, the near the window. I suppose you're right. He'll just sit there for a bit as she disappears. Well, that was a little more interesting than what I was doing. Probably best get ready for work. These spaghetti mobsters won't shoot themselves, he thinks to himself. I suppose you're right. I'd like to dance someday. I'm sort of gangly right now, though. Guess I'll have to wait for that growth spurt. Yes, exactly. It helps you and your friends make their strikes. Someday, I'll be a general or a tactician for the brave Null war clans, and they can all live in peace on the Great Plains. Life insurance, huh? I think I was closer on my first guess. Good luck, Mr. Ken. Oh, I guess so. The restaurant has outdoor seating, but the white suits don't really eat out the front. I'm usually right smiling with their eyes again. How tiresome. Oh, here. She opens her book satchel with an invisible hand. That's Mage Hand. It's cantrip she has. You can steal a glance at her books if you'd like, with a perception. She pulls out a small bound parchment and hands it to you. I have another copy. You can have this one. It's a comic about the Shadow Dancer. It's about Kenku. By day, he's a rich merchant, and he wears a suit like you, but at night, he puts on a costume and fights crime. He's the world's greatest detective, and his sidekick, Legolas, Shadow Girl, is dreamy. Have a nice day, Mr. Ken. She moves along, heading down the tunnel with... She moves along, heading down the tunnel when the girl freezes in place. As far as River can recall, he doesn't have to rush for time. It's maybe midday and Marco's meeting isn't in until early evening. Little did she know, she'd never be good at dancing. So that's a reference to my current character. She does not have very good performance roles. She has excellent dex, but God love her is that arcane rogue, not a dancer. Get a sword in your hand and you'll dance. Maybe not in the traditional sense, but if you train enough, you'll dance like the devil. Trust me on that. Backside of the restaurant? Thanks, kid. River will go find a spot that he can get good view of where they should be, and maybe nap until then. He likes a good nap. As an elf, he only needs 4 hours, I think. So that's actually... Elves don't need to sleep. What they do is they trance for 4 hours for a long rest. Also, Ken is the Japanese word for sword. Don't know if that fits with the other group having sword names, mostly just a coincidence. There is a group in this world who all have the names of weapons. And Claudia, or Claw, this little one right now, will eventually join that group in later years. And her code name will be Kalige. And Kalige is a type of curved sword. Just little stuff about other campaigns, little references that I really love that no one else in the stream will get. I don't know, maybe regular viewers will pick it up. I kind of have to keep a tight rein on this player because he will go off if he's not interested in like an NPC he's talking to. Not railroading, just, you know, letting him know like you're about to leave and you've written in the text that you're about to leave in your paragraph, but things are still happening here, so you will be leaving those things that are happening. River can leave if he wants to move along. As he gets up and starts to step away, about 20 feet from the girl, he hears a voice echo down the tunnel. Claudia Delagarde! The voice is feminine, dense like satin. There's a familiar tone, a tone anyone who has a mother say their full name knows. You know, it won't be hard to find if you want to. Just close your eyes, listen, and follow yourself becoming more irritated. That's about finding Marco again. Marco had mentioned a meeting with Antonio at a cafe where he'd picked out a perfect spot for you. River can do as he pleases, though. He has roughly 6 to 7 hours, so no problem getting a little elf nap in. I thought she had already left, was leaving. Lol, I wouldn't go till she had been gone a bit. Too lazy to just get up and go. If he hears that voice, he would be interested to see what's going to happen. Might not help, but definitely would want to experience something new. She took a few steps and froze in place before hearing the voice. Sorry, should have emphasized it more to make it obvious. She freezes in place. You can see her even in the dark. If the tunnel well enough that her tail is down, dead straight, and that her hair is quite literally standing on the back of her neck. Claw. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I shouldn't have, but him, and I'm there. There's a sobbing whine to Claw's voice. Give me a perception down the tunnel, please, and an insight on your little Null friend, if you would like. He's seen children sob before. It's kind of annoying, but he might pick up on something a person with empathy might not. Today's shopping... Oh, this is just a personal note. Skip that. So he got a perception 22 and an insight 14. So let's see what he insought and what he perceived. Insight. That's not genuine. She's nervous maybe, but that's not real fear or sobbing. It's not bad though. Why would someone who has emotions bother faking or exaggerating them? Seems like more work for something that's already a waste of time and energy. You've been getting really good perceptions. As you look down the tunnel, you don't see anything, and the echo would make it difficult to pinpoint, but following Claw's gaze, you can see the figure in the rafters. The glowing lavender eyes, more than Faye touched for certain, maybe a cloak, occasional glimpses of white teeth catching the light. She's just beyond your dark vision, but you feel like you should be able to see a little more. Maybe magically obscured, perhaps her fur is just a dark color that blends with the shadows. Behind you, you notice the hawk you now know as Vaudeville, walking awkwardly, perhaps comically if River had a sense of humor, with a small owl squirming hanging from her beak. Looks uncomfortable, but not how a hawk would carry its prey. As it begins to pass you, it gives you a look up and down. Don't put on that whine. It only works on your father, and remember who taught you. Do you think I would scold my own child for defending herself? Perhaps your father will lecture you about maintaining a reputation. I, however, think you should have taken the boy's throat rather than a nip on the shoulder. Or perhaps you're worried about borrowing my tome? What I may do to that boy for striking my daughter, disappearing down a dark alleys with handsome, ineffectual young men. I didn't think I'd have concern about that with you, at least not for a few more years. And not with men could my mother's intuition be off? I think not. She gives a wry chuckle, the kind you'd expect to be reserved for a villainess. She drops down from the rafters with a vampire Kate Beckinsale-ish level of smoothness. That is the most accurately I have ever described a movement in Dungeons & Dragons. As her cloak billows from the drop, you spot the barest of glint of a weapon handle at her waist. Ornate, light, maybe a rapier, and the jingle of jewelry, though you don't see any glints like the blade handle. Maybe it's just a dark color against the black fur, or it could simply be covered. sounded like stones. Now that she's on the ground, you can at least see the cloak is dark green, maybe hip length, and she's about 7.5 feet tall. Big lady, very tall. So back to the player. I guess an insight on how she's looking at me. Amused, curious, annoyed. Will I have to defend myself? Does she want to dance? I don't think my blade would best her at this moment if we do have to dance. And he gives a 15 insight. So this character, I would say, is a little bit of an edgelord, the way, he refers to fighting as dancing and such. But that's fine. That's fine. Makes him unique. or at least gives him a unique trait. She gave you a glance when she said, handsome, ineffectual young man. You gather what Claw said, that you have something similar in your eyes. Up front, you see curiosity, then maybe a half-lidded look women have given him previously as an objectively pretty boy, but behind the eyes, she'd as soon kill you as shake your hand. You don't see an intent to kill right now. You're not sure if you'd see it if she did. Right now, she doesn't seem to be threatening you or see you as a threat. Despite an intimidating or at least intense aura, you see what may be genuine concern when she looks over Claw, particularly at her injury. Oh, there's the intent to kill whoever did that. There's a strong hint of possessiveness in her voice too. The hawk stopped a little bit ahead of you, kind of between you and Claw. It's watching you with purpose, perhaps waiting to see if you're the one who intends to dance. Perhaps just sizing you up, undecided if you're a threat or not. River may not know much about familiars, but she knows Claw and the owl spoke from a distance, and he doesn't need a math degree to figure it out the hawk is Claw's mother's familiar. Yes, so Vaudeville, the hawk, is Claw's mom's familiar, and Gwandara, the owl, is Claw's familiar. And currently, Gwandara is being dangled in Vaudeville's beak. I guess it would be silly of me to get in the way now if she isn't in much trouble. What do I care if some random gets eaten by this lady? And then it is back to the characters, back to the mysterious Mama Null. So, young lady, what was your plan? Return my tome unnoticed, patch up your injuries, hide a broken arm. How long could you have kept that up, I wonder? And take the blame and scolding for biting a bully even though they attacked you. To what end, my little moth? Because I don't want you to kill anyone. It'll cause endless trouble for father and Sissy and bro too, and other people will get hurt. It'd be easier if I just... She chuckles, amused. Well, you're caught now. And that boy Brandon, was it? He broke my precious moth's arm. Why shouldn't I remove his head? Payment in kind. No, mother, please, promise me you won't kill or hurt Brandon or his family. With a tinge of disappointment. Your mother does not make promises. She makes deals. Fine. I'll clean your study for a year. You see a grin of sharp white teeth. She puts out a hand to shake. Then the terms, I won't murder Brandon or his family, and you will clean my study to my exacting standards for 1 year from this date. Claw was putting her hand out, but quickly withdraws it. I said kill or hurt. Murder is unjustified killing, and you think this is justified to kill someone who hurt me. She looks over Claw. Claw should speaking to River. Sorry. She looks over Claw's shoulder, speaking to River. Sigh. I hide her law books, but her father gives her free run at the guard station. Very well, I accept your amendment. This time she puts out her hand to shake. A deal requires a handshake, my little moth. Claw grits her teeth and whimpering as she raises her broken arm and softly yelps as they shake hands. There's a brief gasp as the mother grips Claw's wrist and grabs her elbow. With a crack and a high-pitched yelp, the bone is set. As Claw sobs, she pulls her in and holds her, stroking her hair. There, little moth, such a brave girl. You did so well. You hobbled along home, and I'll tend to your wounds shortly. Her eyes go back to you. It's the same expression as before, but it lingers. Back to the player. I'll give a nod. Things seem to have solved themselves. Claw sobs quietly and continues up the tunnel, nursing her arm, assumably towards her home. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Ken. You hear echoing back. The hawk releases the owl, who absolutely bolts after the girl. Mr. Ken. Kenny? Kenneth. How curious. What brings such an ineffectual, handsome young man, what did you say, insurance salesman, to my town? She hasn't moved position, no signs of aggression. Back to the player. River shrugs, just helping some folks out. It's a boring job, but it's usually easy, so I can't complain. Seeing if I can find anything interesting while I'm here. You know how it is. I'll give a slight bow, but not look away. His pupils are almost slit like cat's eyes. As I tighten the strap on my large suitcase and begin to leave. I see. Well, thank you for not being unkind to my daughter, Mr. Ken. Good luck finding something interesting. I often find I need to make my own entertainment in this quaint little town. We simply don't get enough passers-by that are interesting. Have a good evening. She seems to slip away into the shadows. Vaudeville just sort of sits there, not watching you in particular, preening a few feathers. Back to the player. He wanders the streets. Is that all this town has? A few minutes of interesting. He'll casually swipe an apple from a stall as he walks. Sleight of hand. One with a few, if any, people near. Not breaking stride. And he got I assume, a dirty 20 on the sleight of hand. Avoiding an Aladdin-style guard chase. Your boy has one apple, golden delicious, bright, healthy green skin, pretty big, very satisfying crunch when bitten. As he wanders, he notices some of the streets and alleyways are a little on the tight side. Yeah, this is definitely primarily a town for gnomes, but it seems like anything more recently built is a tad more accommodating. It's a relatively healthy trade port. The market seemed to have everything one would need, as well as a few more exotic spices, cloth, and a decent collection of magical components and materials. There's a decent supply of weapons that look like at least average quality. Might be a few things of higher quality, but might be harder to pocket. You see a second patrol of guards, seems to be out on the beat. Easy to make your way around without any notice. You spot a pair of white suits going down the street. Young guys who think they're tough. Just like every other syndicate you've seen, sometimes the upper guys have their head on straight or can walk the walk. Few guys with specific skills like yourself seem to stick to doing their job, but the rank and file are just dumb kids trying to make a name for themselves. A human and a half-elf. The human breaks his tough guy character to help a little old gnome lady across the street. The half-elf looks embarrassed, tries telling the human off. The human claps back, saying if Grandma needs help across the road, you help her across the road. There's some swearing at each other in Orcish. You're not sure they even know what the words mean. They just want to be gangsters. I mentioned earlier that Antonio, the mob boss for this syndicate, for this area, was Orcish. So they probably just picked up a few swears. You see oh, actually, this is a good spot for a little be right back break. Because this is a long old document. I kind of want to try to get through this whole thing and never have to read it again and only reference it in the future. And then if anyone asks about things from it, I can be like, hey, here's the VOD. And yeah, so that is the plan tonight. I plan to get through this no matter how long it takes. So I will probably be taking a few breaks, and this will probably be a mucho longer stream than usual. So I'm gonna put my BRB on for a sec. I'll change the music. We want different music. We'll go with Silk Song again. I'm essentially going to be playing the same like 6 tracks over and over, but at least this is a good long one. It's over an hour. Okay, we were just here. Just mark that, and yeah, be right back in like 4 minutes. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom, make a cup of tea, because my voice is starting to feel all the talking as well. I did get some like playable BRB stream games, but I don't have them fully set up yet, so it's just gonna be the be right back screen. Okay. See you guys in a minute if there is anyone there. Hi, I am back. I have a lovely cup of tea. I'm a little more refreshed. Let's see how much we can destroy my vocal cords and continue working through the rest of this document. Because we are like a quarter of the way through in the first hour. I just got it was a little while ago, I just saw a message from my mod, Ymir, my streamer bestie, and he was just like, guess who's drinking? So I don't think we'll have Ymir tonight, but that is okay as long as he's having a good time. That's what matters. Okay, you see a plump, this is continuing, River has just wandered away from his encounter with this Null Mama, and yeah, he's just wandering the town a little bit. What he's gathered is that the young lady had an encounter with some bullies or something. As I mentioned, she had a broken arm and an injured leg. Perhaps there is more to uncover about those events. And maybe that'll happen right here. Who knows? We shall see. We shall see. You see a plump gnome woman with unnaturally blonde hair with a fringe and a dress that is far too pink, dragging a boy by the arm. Looks like his other shoulder is freshly bandaged. There's a bit away. She seems quite loud. To think they let beasts like her around upstanding gnomes. That girl should have a muzzle strapped on. Come along, Brandon. Oh my, is this the Brandon? The Brandon who Claudia mentioned? We're going to talk to her father, and I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. You also noticed that Vaudeville, the hawk, is trailing them now from the sky. Back to the player again. I'm eating as I walk. Ooh, drama. I wonder if the best mom will kill this kid. If it gets boring, I can stir the pot a little. Popcorn might have been better than an apple. I think as I walk in that direction, although maybe best not to come face to face with a null cop, best keep my distance. Actually, I might grumble to myself, but obviously within earshot of the mom, but with my face out of view. Town police just keep fobbing me off, like everyone. Wish they would actually hold people accountable for their actions. I would have a better chance of justice if I hired those two hard men back there, loosely describing the half-elf and human. Of course, I can't blame the kid really when it's the parents' fault they're like that. Maybe those two could give the kid's mom a scare, set her straight. So that those were the human and half-elf were the two mob guys from this area, the white suits. Seeing if I can plant a seed, maybe have her hire them to get their asses kicked by Claudia's mom. Maybe there are some better snacks around for it. You notice a dwarf food seller paying attention to the loud gnome woman for a moment before he quickly scrambles, and you hear a pop, pop, pop. So someone has seen some drama and wants to profit from the popcorn requirements. Don't get me started on the guards. Bunch of layabouts. Patrols, just a bunch of casual jaunts. Surely they have real work to do. My husband is on the council. I'll have real justice. That girl should be muzzled and paraded to the streets for what she's done to my sweet, innocent, precious baby boy. Dogs who bite get put down. She scoffs at the mention of the quote-unquote hard men. Those white suit boys would sooner lick Cabaret's feet than do anything about that brazen hussy. She smirks. If you ask me, the reason that the white suits are so nice to her and her kids is because they queue up at her at night, if you get my drift. Ooh. You hear another merchant closer to you mumbling something under his breath, and another. You notice a small gang of kids, 2 gnomes, a human and a half-elf. You'd guess around Brandon's age, watching from an alley, very much trying not to be seen, but trying to see and follow from a distance. Brandon and the mom. The hawk seems to just be watching. You can roll a perception on anything you wish, take any actions. The woman seems to be continuing in the same direction. And back to the player again. Well, since I've noticed the hawk, I can assume it's noticed me, so I'll make sure I don't look like I'm talking. Wow, a council member, maybe a petition of sorts, unless he's in the middle of something now. Your husband seems like a very good man to get things done. Perhaps if a concerned citizen had a word with the esteemed councilman while you talk to the police, something could be arranged. The woman has a malicious grin. That's a capital idea. My husband, Councilman Bumblerump. You gotta do it for gnome names. They gotta be silly. You can't have a normal gnome name. Is at the town hall. Perhaps a petition that all savage beast races should be muzzled if they want to walk around in polite society. A merchant rolls their eyes. It's under his breath, but not as quiet as whatever he said previously. Wish someone would put a muzzle on her. Brandon's being dragged. Mom, please, it's... Brandon, shush. Shush, let the grown-ups handle this. The gang of kids move behind from alley to alley. They're looking kind of pale and concerned about how all of this is going to play out. You didn't think hawks could roll their eyes or glare. Now you know. That's looking up at the hawk following them. And then it is back to the player again. Well, Claudia is the first curiosity he's seen in a long time, and his mum is interesting, so he'll probably scare the councilman, maybe take a finger or something to have him call his wife off. He would like to see how the kid turns out, but not if she's treated like the woman is planning to treat her with the muzzle and such, because that almost always makes the same type of person, which is boring and predictable. Claudia should grow up good or evil on her own terms. Well, you know his name and location. You might need directions to the town hall, but otherwise you can make your way in that direction. 'Tis up to you. Let me know if you want to intentionally avoid guards, or Marco for the time being. I'll definitely avoid the jailer folk. I like the idea of putting a muzzle on her. River doesn't think too far ahead, just does stuff. Want, take, have. Actually, fair lady, perhaps a detour. We could buy a muzzle. She has a sly smile. It's nice to hear the opinions from an upright citizen. No need to worry. When I'm through, we can order them in bulk. Gnolls, lizard folk, dragonborn, all the pointy-teeth savages. She continues up the main street. Hawk and the gang of kids sneaking behind. Couple of gawkers a little shocked. One lizard folk looks really hurt by the words, but a little gnome lady hugs his leg and seems to say a few comforting words. The merchant near you beckons, knowing you overhear him. Here, young fella. He hands you a small bag of popcorn. I know what you were meaning. Only savage beasts I see on the street is that witch. Blow in trophy wife. Doesn't know what the chief and them kids have done for this town. Last time bandits tried to raid this town, chief and the eldest broke all their backs. The town kindly donated a wheelchair to each one and gave them a half hour before they set loose Grandma Null. I swear I've never seen an owl lady so happy as that old knoll as her spiked wheels tore up the path down the hill after those raiders. And that Claudia wouldn't hurt a bug, least the bug stung her first. Sweetest little bookworm in the town. Mark my words, everyone in town would be cheering if Cabaret was left off her leash and took Carmina Bumblebrump down a few pegs, like the bumblefuck, am I right? Player response. I'll fake smile. Sounds like I can do what I want to this one. I've been a hunter, I've helped the helpless from the shadows, I've been a thug, a hitman. Maybe I'll give this a go, see if it's any different. I'm not often part of the show. If there are any tomatoes or eggs, I'll part ways with her, but hide and steal a box of basket and sneak around the back of the smallies. They can't let evil people hurt our friends, right? Strike first, strike hard, he says, and starts handing them out to the kids. All while everyone is watching her, but I'll sleight of hand a big stone into mine and fire it at the pink lady. I'll walk away, but before dipping into the alley, I'll fire my tomato and go find a good spot to watch from. Maybe visit the husband after. So stealth, sleight of hand, persuasion, and attack roll, ? And then he gave me all the rules. That was handy. That's probably what I would have went with. Kind of fell apart halfway through. So 23 on the stealth, 23 on the sleight of hand, 10 on persuasion, and an 8 on the attack. So what he's trying to do is give the crowd of kids that following a bunch of tomatoes or eggs or something, and he is going to chuck a rock and then disappear and leave the chaos to unfold. The kids will get blamed either way because I dipped out after throwing. They can point me out, but I'm already gone. Hey. You got a carton of 6 eggs, convinced 2 of the kids to throw. You notice the kids are kind of sheepish, scared. One has a black eye and another has a club, sort of a baseball bat that looks like it's being chomped by something with a powerful bite. You can do an insight with advantage. I think River would put a few things together. One of the eggs goes way off course, hitting a bystander. One egg nails her in the back of the head. Your stone clanks past her head. The stone doesn't go unnoticed. The kids chases it full pelt. You're impressed how quickly they disappear, but they probably know the alleys and side alleys like the back of their hands. Carmina is red and furious. She was about to cast something, but she seems to have thought better of it and starts yelling for the guards. Assault! Assault and battery! Attempted murder! I demand justice! Guards! There's a couple of people hiding chuckles as the egg runs down her back. A concerned gasp from someone who noticed the stone, and a look of horror from someone who noticed she was about to cast something on a few kids. It's caused a bit of chaos in the market as you see 2 guards rushing down the hill to settle things down and find out what's happening. You didn't know hawks could chuckle either. You're learning a lot more about hawks than you expected. As soon as the guards see who is shouting, you see a quick game of rock, paper, scissors, and you see the life drain out of the loser. So the guards are running down the hill. As they're doing so, they do a quick rock, paper, scissors, and whoever the loser is obviously the one who has to talk to Carmina. Back to the player. It's okay. I think he gets what went down. This would be much easier as a magic user, lol. He's playing a non-caster class. But he has put together that whatever the incident was with Claudia and Brandon involved these kids as well. The baseball bat with the chunk missing out of it that looked like something with sharp teeth was most likely Claudia that took a chunk out of the bat after the bat had injured her. And yeah, we continue. Haha, good lad. That's probably to the one that nailed her in the back of the head with the egg. I'd suggest to the vendor to say to the guard that she attacked the kids and they were trying to get her away. Spread the word around. Only a 13 on persuasion, but they might have a low DC since they don't like her. Haha. Again, I'll slip back. Might be able to turn the town against her. I'll have to get to the husband too. Oh, that was also the player who asked, just curious what spells you'd... Oh, no, I was asking him what spells he would have used under the circumstances if he was a caster. You get the feeling she's not well liked to start with. The vendor's like your moxie, but he's not the type to spread false word. The kid started it, but he will tell it in a way that paints her in the worst light possible. However, while she is figuratively eating the ear off a guard who lost rock, paper, scissors, the other guard has been approached by the person who was horrified that she was starting to cast a spell. It's likely they identified it. The other person who noticed the rock seems to be waiting their turn to speak to that guard too. You don't know much about the husband yet besides a name and location. You can roll an investigation to pick up some bits and pieces in conversation, like ask about the town's history and steer it to the council. Things calm down pretty quick. We'll call him loser guard is escorting / being dragged by Carmina to the guard station. Brandon is being dragged in the other hand. The kid super looks like he doesn't want to be involved. The other guard has taken statements from the other people and from a decent bit behind. He won, so he doesn't have to talk to Carmina, so he's keeping it that way. Is just the response to the question what kind of spells he would have used. Things like grease to slip her up, or conjure animal to make rats nibble at her and run on her. 90s kid movie stuff where silly things happen to the bad guys to make them look stupid. That's fair. Yeah, I was hoping the spell thing would get her in trouble. Yeah, I'll do an insight. 5 on the insight, lol. 12 arcana on what the spell she was trying to cast. I guess I'll have to give a statement too on how she was talking about beast folk in general, but I'll add that she said she had a spell to kill them if she didn't get her away. It worked for her in her last town, whatever that means. So he loves spreading the lies and rumors there. Deception 25. Just saying for the statement, simple human townsman John Rubberwinkle, if he asks for a name. Okay, so he's just specifying that if he gives a statement to the guard about what happened, that he'll use the alias John Rubberwinkle, which is something I've had to say far too many times. John Rubberwinkle, John Rubberwinkle, John Rubberwinkle. The classic Home Alone spells. Okay. What are you inciting? Arcana on the spell. You're thinking evocation, fire, unmistakably an offensive spell. Yeah, so he wasn't able to pinpoint exactly what she was going to cast. She did some somatic components. Ignis could be any fire spell. All right. Thank you for your time, Mr. Rubberwinkle. Any relation to the Rubberwinkles at the top of Moor Road? You're from outside of town, are you? Okay, sir. He clears his throat, saying something that sounds rehearsed. Can I get an address, please? In the event this goes to court, you may receive a summons. If you're outside the jurisdiction, you are not required to attend the proceedings, but your statement may be used as evidence as it was given today. Please sign here on the line. You can take a minute to review your statement if you wish. He does a little phew, nailed it to himself. Good that we have more than one witness for aggravated threat with a deadly spell on minors. At least no one was hurt. I can't remember, although that's probably fine with a 5. So that's the insight roll. I didn't know what he was inciting specifically, and he only got a 5, so we don't worry about it too much. Oh yes, of course. I'm staying with my cousins on the top of Moor Road. I'm just on a holiday myself for a bit. I'll just make up a signature for John Rubberwinkle that's in no way like my own. And great job you did. I just hope she doesn't do anything silly like hurt someone again. She even mused at, I shudder the thought, make kids she didn't like in her previous town disappear, although I'm assuming she was joking, or at least I hope she was. That's all I know, though. When he gives me the all okay to move on, I'll make my way to the town hall. I might ask the hawk to guide me there when there is no one around. As I do pass people, I'll drop little bits of gossip, slightly different every time. I can't believe that gnome lady tried to kill those kids. Lucky someone threw something. I heard there's a witch in the market that eats children. Can never trust a gnome who uses illusion to make it look like their kids are doing bad things. Excuses to be racist. I see it all the time, and so on. So yeah, I love that the player is, interacting with the world. They're like spreading rumors through the market, and those rumors will sort of permeate and have effects on that town, at least, if not the world. Yeah, you love to see it. Love to see the interaction. Your deception is higher than he can actually get with insight, so he thinks you're being honest. But he seems puzzled for a second. Cousins. I guess the blue scales must be on the grandfather's side of the family tree, eh? Well, a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Rubberwinkle. I do hope you'll enjoy your holiday, and events today don't paint your opinion of the town in a bad light. I assure you that a couple of bad apples, he nods towards Carmina, a bit up the hill, don't represent the views of our beautiful little port town. Good day. He shuffles along, speaking to other people a little bit more casually, not taking notes. It's more, I've done the official part, now I'll get the gossip from what Sally, the apple vendor, saw. Vaudeville has taken a perch on the corner of a market stall. They're watching the guards and Carmina go up the hill. Give me a persuasion for rumor spreading, mostly to see how quickly it propagates, more so than convincing people it's true. If the maybe hit on... If the maybe hit... Oh, hit is in assassination. If the maybe hit on the white suits is Rivers meeting the gang, then they will be walking into a doozy of a town when River is through with it. 13 on persuasion. Hopefully it's enough to get the rumor mill going by the evening lull. Will the hawk show me the way? Seems like you mentioned your rumor to and in earshot of a proper gossiper. How far and fast it will spread, we shall see. He did really well on those rolls, so it spread pretty quickly. Remember, this is just one player running through this. The other two players ran through this afterwards on Roll20. So they had like the aftermath of everything this player did. So that set some of their investigation DCs and perception DCs and such, like based on actual rolls that Rivers player did. So there is a different forged document later on that he signed a fake name for. And the player, one of the two players that played through the game proper, with the maps and everything, with the tokens and such, they, following his trail, found these documents, and because they both have the background for forgeries and things, they both have like really big roles for it. So he was actually able to realize that River, this player, had forged a name on that document later. So that was really neat because, you know, I could literally take what this player did, what this player rolled to make the forgery, and use that as the DC for the player later to identify the forgery. It's great. There were lots of little moments like that, which I'm very happy with. Ooh, okay. The hawk regards you, thinks about your request, points to a tray of liver strips at a meat vendor below him, seems to count on his wingtip feathers, and holds up 4 feathers. The liver strips are a copper each. You can try a sleight of hand, but it is slippy, messy, raw meat. I might just pay for that one. Because, you know, copper's not much. He started with some gold in his pockets. It's okay. Okie dokie, the meat vendor wraps it up in a little package. A rather old, gruff fellow. Don't get much call for these liver strips except by the gnolls and scaled folks. They usually take it to go on a cocktail stick. Oh, you're Rubberwinkle's cousin, ain't ya? Well, enjoy. If you see him later, let him know I have some of those awful offcuts he likes. So he used the fake name Rubberwinkle. So straight away I had to push like actual Rubberwinkles into the game. So there is a family of the Rubberwinkles now in the city instantly, just because the player chose that as an alias. But just to make it extra funny, their cousins, his cousins, the Rubberwinkles, quote unquote cousins, are Dragonborn. Vaudeville lands on your arm. He keeps constant eye contact with you as he picks up the little bundle from your hand. Once he has it in beak, he gives you a this way hawk nod, reaching an alleyway in a flash and flapping in place for a moment expectantly. Will do. I'm hoping to surprise him, so mum's the word till I get there. I'm the favorite cousin, obviously. Let's go. Hopefully they will just be like, oh, my cousin is coming. Great. If John is a common enough a name. Vaudeville leads you through the alleyways. He's fast, waits just long enough to make sure you see him make the next turn. Guess he wants to make sure you get your daily workout in. There's probably more direct open streets. Is he taking you the most direct route, or perhaps guiding you around the guards' patrols? Opening into a wider alley, Vaudeville seems to make a small detour. A shop with a black and purple exterior. Claudia, standing outside. Her arm is in a sling, seems to be using shape water and a soapy basin to clean the windows. Gwandara sits on a chair, looking at a small bookshelf sitting out front. The books seem to be organizing themselves. Vaudeville lands on the door handle and caws at Claudia. I'm casting 2 spells with one hand, Vaudeville. Hold your feathers. What you got there? She sniffs. Lunch? Oh, hi, Mr. Ken. You see the store name, Cabaret's Study, and you might remember that Claudia agreed to clean Cabaret's Study for 1 year. Now it is revealed that Cabaret Study is actually a shop, not just like a study room or an office in her own home. Ta-da! Shock reveal! Top-notch DMing. So the full title is Cabaret Study, a subsidiary of Needful Things, the finest magical and cursed items this side of Kantara. Kantara is the continent they're currently on, or country they're currently in. Both? Both. I'm going to say both. It's not my world. I'm just borrowing a little chunk of its past for my little time travel game. Claudia made a deal with her mother to clean her study. You had assumed that meant like a home office. Looks like it meant a whole shop. And then back to the player. Curiouser and curiouser. I'll look around for the town hall, but might take a look in the shop. I can't remember his money situation, but I imagine he can't afford anything. Might have some cool stuff on discount though. He did have a bit of gold. He had his starting gold. It was on his sheet as well, which he had access to. But, you know, he was messaging on his phone, I believe, so he didn't necessarily have access to his sheet because he didn't necessarily have access to his computer. So he can continue playing the game if he knows the stats offhand, but doesn't have the details of his sheet. Okay. Hey, kid. Looks like you have a lot of work cut out for you. Better than those other kids. Some crazy gnome lady tried to kill them with fire magic. Little more careful what I say to Claudia with the bird there. Is the town hall close by? Also, I don't... this is back to me. I also don't remember the gold situation. I assume he doesn't spend a lot day to day on the regular, so maybe he's put a little aside. Yeah, so he had his starting gold, and you know, I think I gave him a little bit extra. Don't remember offhand. And this is Claudia's reply. Sure do. You should see the storage upstairs. Oh, Mom's been cackling like, well, like one of us, because they're hyena people. Thanks for the help. We were just going to destroy your reputation, but you've done that and more. A sphere of soapy water plops into the basin as she goes to open the door for vaudeville. The town hall is just to the alley over, then down the old dock road for 2 minutes. Can't miss it. Kind of a fancy building. Says town hall on it. She smiles. She's kind of awkwardly standing in the doorway, not sure if she should move, step out of the way, open the door, close the door. Poor awkward Claudia. Back to the player. He steals most things, so I'll leave his money up to you based on the jobs and such. I think I just have the starting gold noted. I do recall him having a decent amount of starting gold, but it was that or sit around. At least it's something to do. I might visit then, maybe have a look at the items of the fine establishment. I'll ruffle her hair as I walk on. And I said I'll say he has 100 gold squirreled away. He's a professional assassin, so you know he should have a decent amount of gold stored away. Maybe some savings here and there in other places, emergency stashes, escape funds. Her hair is ruffled. She's standing pigeon-toed with her head tilted down, looking up at you. Sometimes she speaks like an adult, but she's definitely a kid. Come along, Claudia. Leave Mr. Kenneth, John Rubberwinkle alone. Bring Gwandara and have some of this delicious liver. Vaudeville is already eyeing up their share. Rubberwinkle like the Dragonborn. Oh, coming, Mom. Ken, John, whatever you prefer. Apologies for the detour. You have paid for vaudeville services. Liver really is such a treat. They will guide you the rest of the way to your destination around any obstacles you wish. As I mentioned, River wasn't sure or couldn't be sure if Vaudeville was guiding them on the most direct route or, sort of around patrolling guards and such. So Vaudeville was, in fact, guiding them around any patrolling guards, which made it really a little harder for the other two players to track down his exact path. But he usually caused enough chaos for them to find his final destination in the end. So, it was a fun sort of tracking hide-and-seek game that followed this. Where was I? You said walk on rather than walk in, so I assume you're hitting up the town hall first and might come back later if you fancy it. Sure, I wouldn't pass up an escort. Yes, town hall first, then I'll have a look around the shop after. Or a hide in the shop if all goes to pots. Perfect. Vaudeville will lead you around. It's the direction Claudia had given you, but not the same route, guided around patrols and such, before leading you on to what you assume is Old Dock Road. Vaudeville stops, looks around, and moves back a little, landing on a bin at the corner and monitoring with a wing for you to hold up. Or motioning with a wing for you to hold up. You hear a heavy thud, thud, thud. Something big is passing by. You hear a voice. Probably a gnome. Ah, Meridian. You found Mr. Vandersnoot's missing donkey, then? Yep, just bringing them back. The reply is feminine, deep, and tired. Another voice. Meridian! The roof fell off my house again. Could you be a dear later and... No problem. It'll be next on my list. Another voice. Oh, Meridian, did you hear? Apparently I have a cousin visiting. Surprise visit. I heard they're already in town. I didn't even know I had a half-elf in the family. Anyway, my boulders rolled down the hill again. I'd like to have my place looking its best, if you wouldn't mind. Claudia was telling me about a legend about a giant who had to push a boulder up a hill for all eternity. Brilliant! I knew I could count on you. There's a deafening defeated sigh. Of course, Mr. Riverwinkle. I'll take care of it when I can. Excellent! I'm making treacle tarts. I'll make one for you. The thudding of the large steps get closer. As she passes the alley, you can see a very broad knoll. 2 donkeys on each shoulder. The donkeys seem pretty chill about the whole thing. You don't get a full view, what with her shoulder donkeys. Seems to have Cabaret's darker coloring and Claudia's orange markings. Guard uniform, battle axe on her back, and frizzy hair. From the back tied into a bun with a little red ribbon. You're close enough to hear her hum to herself. Pressure like a drip, 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 whoa. Can you tell who this character is based on? After she's passed, Vaudeville leans out, looking both ways, and signals for you to follow. Again, you have a nice view of the whole docklands from here. You can see the piers, lots of fishing boats, large ships loading and unloading, lots of older buildings along the pier front, reasonably busy, people going back and forth, easy enough to blend in with the crowd. At the moment, Vaudeville goes up slightly higher, leading you down the street. Vaudeville will lead you down the road and circles above a reasonably fancy building. There's one guard sitting at the top of the steps, half snoozing, leaning on a spear. Back to the player. I think I'll sneak in. Less people see me in the area, the better I think. Be nice to have an invisibility spell lull. Let's try that one again. I think I'll sneak in. Less people see me in this area, the better I think. Be nice to have an invisibility spell lull. 19 stealth. Flawless. Hood up, I assume. You slip in behind someone else entering. There's a reception, a big set of stairs behind that, a couple of doors, offices on the ground floor. Just to mention, because I did not have this building planned, there's no actual reason that I can think of for the player to go see the councilman that was the husband of this Carmina character. But I basically the layout of the building for you mentally to keep in your head is the Resident Evil 2 police precinct. Is just what I had in my mind as the layout. Back to the player. I'm sure current Claudia has similar problems with stealth lull. Should have asked for a room. I guess I'll have to check the names on doors. So that's for looking for this guy, Carmina's husband's office. Disguise self and a little owl get you a long way. Her DC for seeing through the disguise is lower, but she has to give someone a reason to investigate. So that's just one of the things about disguise self is if you roll an investigation and you beat the spell DC of the character that has cast the disguise self with the investigation, then that will break the spell for that individual person and they'll be able to see through it. That was the end of the sentence. I'm moving on. Okie dokie. Nearest door to your right, glass pane door with a pattern in the glass that makes it hard to see through. Staff only. Next door halfway up the room, conference room A1. Seems there's a little slider sign for available occupied. At the back on that side, you nonchalantly look at some historical documents and art that are on the walls as the door opens, and a lizard folk with a jumpsuit and a bucket on wheels and a mop comes out of that door. Supply closet. Janitor perhaps, pays you no heed as he gets to cleaning. The other side of the room seems like the first room in a waiting room open to the public, followed by a long hall with quite a few semi-open rooms for some kinds of meetings, probably for marriage, death, property certificates and such. Municipal paperwork guys. The hall leads around the outside of the building back to the main room. The room at the center seems to be the classic lots of seats and stage where actual town meetings happen in the town hall. One would suppose you want to sneak around any areas or continue your search upstairs. Skip that line. It's a reference to another character in another game, but it is just silliness. It's not a serious thing, but it doesn't sound appropriate, so I'm going to skip it. Sure, I'll carry on up. Tempted to take out the janitor and steal his clothes, but I have no reason for it right now. Might call for a town meeting or something. Still no idea what I'll do when I find him, but all the info along the way might help. River either cares zero or the intrusive thoughts win. There is no in between. I have no idea what you're planning. I'm just here for the ride, baby. The first floor looks more what we're looking for. Large dark wooden doors with copper nameplates, some with opening visiting public hours. You find a door for Councilman Roger Bumblerump, which is the individual he's looking for. Fair point. You and I both. I'll know when I start doing whatever it is I do. I guess I'll knock softly and let myself in. Let's see what happens. As you step in, you see a few chairs lined up on the wall. The copper fittings are quite nice. There's a full-size stuffed bear in taking up one corner, and you see a small / regular-sized gnomish woman with glasses behind a desk next to another door. She has her size desk, and next to it a sort of medium-sized table with a set of steps at the back. Seems like they're putting the work in for accessibility. There's a small and medium-sized chair on front of the respective tables. You can assume secretary. Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you today? Are you a constituent? It's a gentle, slightly whispery voice. She adjusts her glasses and takes a better look at you, takes a sip of her itty-bitty coffee, and gives you a soft smile. I should have swiped that officer's badge and pretended to be secret police. That's the, I assume that's the guard he talked to earlier to give a statement about what happened at the market. That would have been an interesting idea. Can't say how well it would go. Side talk about class subclass. Oh. I think that was a different chat. Never mind. River has been standing in the door for a second. The gnome lady is just looking at you. Oh dear, urgent you say. Yes, Mr. Bumblerump should be available, she whispers conspiratorially. I think I'm missing a message there. Just he must have said it was urgent, right? Yeah. He's been in quite the tizzy today. Apparently his son got in a bit of a tussle at school, and the whole thing seems to be rather blowing up. As it were, she jogs up the steps to the higher table. Can I just get your name? And the time is just sign-in sheet. I'll just pop my head in and let him know someone's here to see him. He might just need a moment, so please have a seat. Is there anything about this money transaction I can let him know beforehand in case he needs some documents or papers? Yeah, so I must be missing one message from the player here. Obviously, they have made the excuse or lie that they have some sort of important or urgent money issue to discuss with the councilman. No, he won't need anything right now. I'll sign the name I did with the cop and wait. So, John Rubberwinkle. No problem, John. No problem. She looks down at the paper, of course. John, he'll be right with you, I'm sure. She pops her head in the other door. Sir, someone here's to see you. John Rubberwinkle. Yes, sir. Something about a money transaction. Sure. A coffee? Of course, sir. I'll give a knock when it's ready. John, please go right ahead. I'm making Mr. Rubberwinkle a coffee. Would you like one? There's a little coffee station in the corner. She putters over to it. Maybe another time. And then he randomly asked for a history on the white suits that are the sort of mafia syndicate that are in this particular town. And I guess I give all those details right now on a 7. Or at least the information River would have on a 7 being part of this mafia structure himself, and like all probably being part of his own syndicate. There's a reasonable amount of details I can give him, even though it was a relatively low roll. It was a higher roll, probably more secrets, probably more interesting stuff, extra stuff. But just on a 7, he's still got a lot of information, just because his character would have access to a lot of information in his memory of the history of this group. The White Suits. Like most syndicates, the White Suits are a mafia for a particular area with a certain style and cover of legitimate businessmen that gives them a different cover than run-a-day bandits. When your old man was in charge, they were based out of Trollford because he disbanded them, but he didn't manage to cut out the roots, and a new dawn came to power. Dawn, D-O-N, not D-A-W-N. Dawn. Weird word. If you, yeah. That. They stay small intentionally in terms of power, keeping most of their dealings low key and under the radar. As part of the mafia, Antonio has access to traders and resources, also skilled individuals and specialists that an average bandit wouldn't. In exchange, he's supposed to pay a tithe to the Dawn. Their payments seem to have dried up, but by all accounts, he seems to be doing very well for himself, still availing of services. Seems like a lot of weapons are making their way to Castle Ridge and disappearing. From what Marco was yapping, seems Antonio has gotten too big for his boots, perhaps. The White Suits keep their heads down and don't seem to cause much trouble. Most people see them as a club for rambunctious young men. You wear a nice suit, act tough, and get a little respect. Mafia guys tend to keep their heads down. They don't want attention from the fuzz. Younger guys might get rowdy, petty theft, maybe a scrap, a night in jail to think about what you did kind of stuff. Gives the more serious parts of the organization a little breathing room. That's even more so in Castle Ridge, with a well-formed, trained and organized guard. And from what you know about the chief and what you've seen of Meridian, the eldest daughter, you don't want their attention. Weapon smuggling through Castle Ridge, and where those weapons are going, not your business, but the Dawn would find that respectable, if not impressive, if Antonio was paying his due. You recall Claudia mentioning that the White Suits were really nice to her and her family, but it's more because they're scared of Cabaret than her father. You also remember Carmina implying she was, to put it bluntly, providing them naughty services. You kind of doubt that, but there does seem to be a connection between Mominol and the White Suits. You can ask if River would know anything specific about his. You can ask if River would know anything specific from his background. You can find and ask Marco later, but you would have to talk to Marco. You know where Cabaret is if you wanted to ask her. You don't know what Roger Bumbler Rump knows, if anything, but you're about to talk to him. Are you going in? The door is cracked open, and you've been told you can go right ahead. Okay, time for a little hydrate break, I think. How far are we? We're like halfway-ish, I think. Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa. The stream does not end till I've read this entire thing. including occasional voices of characters. We will persevere until I've completed this, even if we get 0 watchers, even if we have multiple watchers. Okay. Doors cracked open, you can go right in. That background helps a lot. I guess my documentation would be that I'm with the church, like secret police stuff. I'll hold on to that vague enough thing to use in towns. So I think this was about one of his background features. He can forge documents, and he gets a false identity that's already set up for him. I forget which background it is. I'm not going to look that up right now. If you're a D&D 5e player, you might know it offhand. I will, another stream, another time, we'll look at his actual build and stuff. But I want to get through the story. I want to get through the background. There's so much to read. It is good practice for reading. I want to get good at reading things on stream. And I think I am already, from the start of the document to now, doing less umming. And I've been trying to less on stream in general because I too much. So no ums. I read that line. Okay. I'll tell Mr. Bumblerump that I am an inquisitor that is secretly after a witch who goes from town to town burning children, and my colleagues may have caught up to her. Of course, the police will follow what the inquisitors say, but I don't fully believe that his wife is the witch. Although convincing them is too late, I am talking with him to give him a chance. If he feels she isn't an evil witch, then it is best he stay calm, pack some things, and quietly take her out of town and start a new life. And sending his son to a boarding school like Clushclada might spare him any further future troubles. He can become a respectable cleric. Go soon, though, because I have heard rumors that she is getting into trouble already. As for the money stuff, well, let's just say the white suits have been paying people to say things about you, and the people are turning. Go soon, though, because I've heard rumors that she is getting into trouble already. As for the money stuff, well, let's just say the white suits have been paying people to say things about you, and the people are turning against him. Possibly to overturn you, but I believe that has tipped their hand, and I can convince the church to look into it to at least buy you time and keep you safe. Again, stay calm and pretend everything is fine. Don't draw attention, but go quickly. So that kind of came out of nowhere for me. Interesting move by the player. I don't think like inquisitors or an inquisition exist in this world at this time. So, I just went with it because it was kind of funny, and he could convince. So I'll look out the window as if to pretend I'm checking it safe. Deception should be a +5. I'll amend the sheet so it's 23 on the roll. The documentation should help me look official at least. Hopefully he leaves and I can rob the place. So on the 23, that's like more than enough to deceive him. Like even if he doesn't know what an inquisitor is, it's like, oh, you're secret government police or something. Okay, shoot, I gotta get out of here. Amazing, damn. Okay, wow. I love the idea that you'd roll a 1 on that. Sir, your ID is a badge from a cereal box. It says a Frosted Flakes detective on it. Ah, yes, well, leaps out of window onto passing carriage. Susan, hold my calls. I'm going to need a few minutes. As Roger looks over the documentation and listens, he turns a pale white and the blood drains from his face. He carefully looks to you and the window out of the corner of his eye. He's a gnome in a full-sized leather chair with essentially full cover from the window, but he barely moves, trembling. My darling Carmina? A witch? That can't be possible. But if an inquisitor is saying so, I had heard she was taken off to the guard station, that there was an incident, but I thought it was just her usual slight overreaction. Oh, my sweet darling, my precious boy. He holds back, sobs, trembling, on the edge of a full panic attack. A bag. I'll pack immediately. Perhaps we can make it to the next ship to the east. Bless you, Inquisitor. Bless you and your mercy and wisdom. Why would the white suits be paying people to spread rumors? They're just a bunch of rowdy kids. Antonio's taken under his wing. No, there's no time to dwell on such things. Is it safe? Clear to go? There's a knock. Roger nearly pisses himself, his life passing before his eyes. Your coffee, sir. Are you okay? Yes, never mind the coffee. I'll be leaving early, Susan. Please, he glances to you and back to her. Please take messages from any visitors. He slips off his chair under the desk and grabs his briefcase. He takes a few personal items, a picture of his son from his desk, pulls a bottle out of his bottom drawer, and necks it, taking a gasp. 1498 brandy, Inquisitor. Please help yourself to whatever's left. I already can't thank you enough. Should I go out the back way? Would that be too obvious? Back to the player. Yeah, deception is one of the better ones. Gotta get that charisma up though. I really need him to have good rolls because his stats are so spread out. Mostly for when Roll20 starts dicking me over. Lol. Look, Roll20, it doesn't matter what your class is. It doesn't matter what your stats are. Roll20 will decide to take against your character. You'll either have an awesome character that always rolls good, a very unfortunate character that will always roll low, or you can get like the median. You have good days and bad days. Those are the three options. There's good, bad, and in between. There's no like slightly good or slightly bad. Well, I'll say a dark witch, and that the church can just be like whatever one would be more influential in the area. Your boy will be safe if you can get him to a good school. Out of the way, you seem like you have the coin for it. Good. I don't believe she is a dark witch, so hold on to that. However, just because you and I believe something doesn't mean it will work out. So running is the best option. I haven't been here long enough to figure the white suits out, but in my experience, it's the rowdy ones that jump the guns. Ooh, that rhymes. The rowdy ones jump the guns. And do silly things to gain quick power or status. Not at all casual, yet out of the way is very smart. I'll hang around the office after he leaves. If the Secret. If the secretary asks, I'll just shrug and say he has the runs. Roger nods. Roger nods, still thanking you. He takes a breath and leaves. River is now alone in the office. So he does a stealth and an investigation. See what I can find before I leave. Can't stay too long since the secretary is in the other room. Stealth 12, investigation, nat 20. So I find some cool stuff, but I'm not too subtle about it. Hopefully her passive is less than 12. Okay. So this guy is like just a councilman. I didn't give him any plot relevance beforehand. I had never planned for the player to go to like the city council office. It is like a text exchange, so I do have some time to think about like putting in new stuff or changing stuff, or any notes that I have pre-planned I can like update as I go, and I don't have to get back straight away. But this was very not expected. It was very, very not expected for him to go to the office, the city council office. Why? Okay. So it was 12 stealth and nat 20 investigation. I had to give him stuff for the nat 20. You gotta give. He got the nat 20. Okay. Very interesting. The obvious thing is you score a decent third bottle of a quite fancy 17-year-old brandy. The most recent file on his desk, you assume what he was working on before you had arrived, looks like a plan to deal with the sewer crocs. There's 2 petitioners with plans. A Mr. Dundee, who suggests turning the wee beasties into leather foods, farming them, essentially. The second petitioner, a Mr. Irving, suggests turning the sewers into a nature reserve with an educational center for the absolute beauties. There is a sewer map, a lot of statistical information where the most crocs are, estimated numbers, aggression. A pattern pops out to River as his eyes run down the aggression statistics, notably by absence. Never an attack on a Saturday. That'd be when the most people were out and about, off work and such. Kind of weird. There also appears to be some lists of signatures or polls. People pro one idea or the other. Nothing seems strange there. Wait, the poll recorded people against the plans too. For the pro votes, people seem to have picked one plan or the other, but the nays have a list of all the same names rejecting both plans, with Antonio's right at the top. If you just had a list of white suits to check against any of the nay votes, seems like he has a planner, dates and meetings. There's a series of folder cabinets, housing, roads, recreation and amenities, planning, libraries, fire services, register of electors. You can have a look through them, maybe find something specific if you're looking for it. You find a pack of fine cigars. It starts to dawn on you that the office of an elected civil servant might be boring. And I actually had to Google like what kind of things a city councillor would actually be overseeing to make the folders and stuff. The stuff with the sewers was relevant, and it was something I could give him as a sort of what would you say? Not a red herring, as a plot hook. Yeah, plot hook. The thing about the sewers was a plot hook because he didn't actually discover this, and neither did the other team till later, because neither of them initially went through the sewers. Is what they do is on a Friday, they basically flush a whole load of sedatives into the sewer, which makes all the crocs quite sleepy, which is why there are no recorded attacks or aggression on Saturdays. And then on Saturdays, they can move their weapons from the sewer entrances just outside the town through the sewers and straight to the port without getting caught. Yeah. So that was a little plot hook that they. I think the other two players did figure that out because they went into the sewers and they basically searched the whole place. So I'm pretty sure they came across the room where they were storing the sedatives and everything. Yeah. In fact, I'm pretty definite about it. Replaying Resident Evil 2 remake, so I just keep picturing the crocs as giant. They were pretty big crocs, not gonna lie. I have a forgery kit. This is what I mentioned earlier. The other player, he set the DC for another player. I have a forgery kit, so I'll forge his name on the Nature Reserve one. That sounds more interesting. Killing animals for clothes has been done, but the other one is odd, and I'd like to see what happens. I will take the map, though. Maybe River will release the crocs into the town, see what happens. I'll just start signing stuff at random. When I leave, I'll say to the secretary that he wasn't feeling well, but wanted you to have this, and hand her the drink. Something about being off the drink from now, but his amazing secretary deserves something nice. Anything to do with the white suits or Claudia's family, I'll take. The kid is neat and the mom is interesting. Seems like she would have some good stories. Jobs, maybe. If there are records of the white suits' whereabouts, I might try and find a way to release the crocs into them in a confined location. Oh, voice suffering a bit. Okay, I think we're near on the longest stream so far. We're at 2.5 hours, and we are halfway through this document. I'm not giving up. We need more music though. More music. There we go. Okay, time for a little sip, little hydration. Little puff break. Yeah, there's a little over 60 pages, and we're at 30 now. I don't think we're doing too bad. I think some of the more actiony scenes go by pretty quickly as well. And there's at least one little image I can skip past. Can I show... let me go to the map for a sec. While I give my... We will eventually... Yeah, all the characters should be here. Was later in the game. This is River. This is the token his player sent me for his character. So that is our handsome young man. He is full elf, I believe. And these are Cabaret and Vaudeville. That is Claudia's mom and her hawk. I don't think this is Marco here. We introduced at the start, the little gnome that yaps. Any other important characters I can give you now? Some of them will come into the story shortly. No, that's fine for now. We'll have another sippy sip. Another hydration. Okay. Okay, we can do this. We can do this. Let's keep going. Hey. You're forging his name. Do you have proficiency with your kit? You have all the tools to do the job perfectly. So it is a deception with an extra +2 if you have the specific tool proficiency. The DC also went down for having the kit. You have a map of the sewers. I'll let you know they're not really trapped, contained down there. It's just where they live. Seems like it's just their preferred environment. There are a couple of notes in the file about the crocs wandering into the town proper, but it seems more like a nuisance than a big disaster. They're just corralled and shooed back into the sewer entrance or waters nearby. Give me a D12 for randomly signing stuff. Let's see. You find some records, mostly copies for record purposes. Both Delegard parents, that is both of Claudia's parents, and eldest daughter are registered to vote. There's a copy of the lease for Cabaret's shop, a copy of the deed to their house. I guess you have their home address now. Meridian is also a volunteer firefighter. Claudia doesn't come up much. She's registered in the library. Shocker. You don't find anything about the white suits. Seems the restaurant is in Antonio's mother's name. Knowing what you know about the restaurant and the fact the chef eats there regularly, you get the feeling that it might actually be a legitimate chief, not chef, chief, the Claudia's father, the guard chief. The fact that Chief eats there regularly, you get the feeling that it might actually be a legit business, and sometimes Antonio's boys hang out and eat there rather than it being a front for his own business. Antonio does seem to have some property himself, though. Building on the outskirts of town, building in the city center, and a warehouse near the docks, leased for restaurant supplies and storage. If you have names, you can cross-reference to find addresses. You don't have a map of the town, though, just the sewers, which is more the blueprint plans than something with street addresses. You don't need a town map or something who knows. You'd need a town map or someone who knows the town to cross-reference the town with the sewer map properly. If you went down into the sewers, you'd know what way leads where, but not what you'd find or where you'd be when you exited. Okay, yeah, essentially he has the map of the sewers, but he doesn't know where the entrances and exits of the sewers come in and out relative to the town around it. Players reply, yes, his name, and yes to the proficiency with the kit, 16 on the roll in total. Oh, that's a less interesting. Probably leave them be, but the map will be good for getting around escaping it if an easier route isn't available. And the other two players actually used the documents he left behind, like the registered voters and stuff, to compare the other white suits that they did get names of to the people who voted against the doing anything with the sewers, which is also a nice thing. 1 on the D12. So I made up a couple of random documents and picked the one he forged a random name on, and the other players had a chance to find that and see it, but it was just a random document he built. Meridian is the gnoll carrying the donkeys from earlier. I'll note their address anyway. Might check out some of those addresses, maybe steal some shit. I don't know a Special K drinks water. Who might know her way around if she wants to do hero stuff. Oh, he started calling Claw Special K. And she is someone who would know her way around the town if she was so inclined to help out. Plus, I'm checking out the magic shop anyway. If there is any passive AC buff stuff, I would be most interested. I can't wear armor. If there is a tourist map on the way out, I'll grab one of those. Oh, my throat is starting to get scratchy now. We're okay. We'll keep going. We'll persevere. All right. Solid copy of the signature. You'd think I'd pass. You think it'd pass most scrutiny. You're in the municipal councilman's office. It's pretty dry stuff, but some really good detective work. Maybe you are like the shadow from the comic Claudia gave you. Okay, you've signed some random documents with Roger's name. Noted, don't worry about it. And that's because it was only relevant to the other two. Yes, Meridian was carrying the donkeys. Seems she's the eldest of the Knoll siblings. You have the address of the Delagarde's family home. You got a pretty good feeling they know their way around. No harm in asking. No harm in seeing the shop has something to help with AC either. You pick up a tourist map. You now have the street names. That's on the way out. He picks up a map. It also marks out monuments, points of interest, etc. Usual tourist map stuff. You can see it has 2 areas marked for croc warnings, sewer exits to waterways, one at the docks and one at the edge of town. Makes it easier to match with the sewer map. They're not to the same scale, but you have a pretty good idea. I like the sound of the shadow. I need something new. He gets bored easily, and after a while wants to do things super different. Oh, he's not worried about it. To the shop. Cool. You taking the direct route Claw gave you. The slightly more around route Vaudeville led you, or cracking out that new map of yours. Roll a stealth if you'd like to keep your head down. And he says, I'll go the way I came, since it's safe. 16, you say. A 16 stealth. As you round a corner, you bump into a young woman. She's very apologetic. I assume your hood's up, but she gives your face a good look. She blushes slightly and quickly moves along. With your passive, you hear her mumble to herself, but you only pick up the words gosh and so handsome. You get to the store. Cabaret Study, a subsidiary of Needful Things, the finest magical and cursed items this side of Kantara. The windows are spotless. There's a wooden fold-away seat and a small bookcase on a rug outside. Seems to be mostly paperbacks, old, used, a small sign. It's a take a book, leave a book scheme. An open sign and enter at your own risk sign can be seen through the door's glass window. There's a couple of notes. Times when fortune telling slots are available. Proper fortune telling costs more, but with actual spells for deities and the great beyond, no refunds. Good faith warning given for all cursed items. Incorrect use sounds like a you problem. Starting wizard and cleric robes for the next school year available here, as well as basic classroom requirements. if you looking for druid stuff, I'm sure I can find you a stick and some acorns. 10% off quartz crystals. We have other new age mindfulness shit too. It sure is. I am a handsome young man. My mom said so. Tempted to take a book and swap sleeves with the magic book and place that in. See if someone gets it by mistake. Tempted. I'll ask if there is anything to help with not getting hit, or maybe some invisibility stuff, maybe a charm to help with stat increases. He's not asking much for his first game, is he? Oh, my throat. Oh. When I lean too far back, my reindeer horns pop up. Ooh. My throat is nearly barren. Can I keep going? How long can I keep going? I don't think I can read this whole thing in one stream. But I do have Sunday free to stream this week, which is nice. I do want to just get this done. We'll go to the top of the hour at the very least. And if I can't talk anymore, we know we're done. As you open the door and step in, you hear a jingle of a bell above the door. The wall to your right has a row of shelves stocked with tomes and scrolls, and there's an aisle to your left with possibly magic weapons, cloaks, and curiosities. At the end of the room, you see the start of a set of stairs going to the right and a door straight ahead. You see the edge of a large, dark mahogany table with a tall glass display filled with jewelry. Vaudeville, sitting comfortably on a perch on top, seems to give you a nod. The air is filled with a mild incense. The whole room is dense with magic. Even you can sense it. There is an occasional chime or resonance. Welcome to my shop, Kenny Ken. Or how may I... There's a sudden crash upstairs. You hear Claudia's voice muffled through the ceiling. Frick! Language! Oh, fucking bullshit! That's better. You okay? Yeah, that big cage fell on me. I'm fine though. Is that cage still intact? Yes, ma'am. Good. I don't know where I'd get another river spirit like that these days. Just be careful. Apologies. Oh no, this is her talking to River now. Apologies, my enigmatic young fellow. Where was I? Ah, yes. Welcome. How may I assist you today, my little insurance collector? She cackles to herself. Got a bit more for description. She'll go through what she has available that might fit your requirements. And player says, yeah, I'll basically tell her the kind of things I'm interested in. I have gold, a job coming up, possible items to trade after a visit to someone, or can do some jobs if needs be. Increase in AC, Dex, Wisdom, Charisma, or something like invisibility or other sneaky items. The visit is to the White Suit's place and rob the shit out of them if I need the cash. Ugh. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. I really don't think my voice will go any further. You know, when I'm playing a game, you kind of get those breaks. When I'm playing Dragon Age, you get a break when other characters are in dialogue, but when you're just solidly reading something for 3-ish hours, it takes a toll, and I'm not used to that. But you know, practice and you know, yeah. Oh hey, let's go to my chat room for a minute. Cool. We got roughly halfway through that. It is really unnecessarily long. Yeah. Let's have a quick check. Don't have any viewers, so I don't see a point in raiding out right now. Let's have a look, just out of curiosity, on what friendos are online. Oh. No. No, I don't see any friendos online who are like very small. If I had more than one person, I'd kind of aim for like less than 100 viewer people, like 10 to 100 maybe. But when it's just little old me, I think I'll just end the stream. And yeah, I know this isn't a super entertaining stream. I just have to get through all of this for the sake of my own mental illness of needing to be complete. Because if I don't read through all of this, then the next part doesn't make sense, even though no one will watch this part because it's just me reading for 3 hours. Yeah, okay. I am going to continue this on Sunday, and we'll get it done over the course of another 3 hours, I guess. And then on Monday, we'll play Dragon Age, and on Tuesday, I'll see what I'll do, because I am free this Tuesday, and on Wednesday, I also don't know, we might play a different game. I might try to do our Doom stream, like our Doom overlay that I made, and like take that for a whirl. And I'll play Doom Eternal. That is what I'm thinking, but not set in stone, because we might not do that. Yeah. So I'm just gonna stop stream there.